Your database is your lifeblood. It's
Right.
your lifeline. If you don't have contact with people, you have no clients. You have no clients, you have no transactions, and therefore no money. So,
Right. Right. Okay, everybody. I want to welcome one of my favorite realtors in our company. A great guy, funny guy, great musician, all around good dude. Mark Thomas. Welcome.
oh, thank you. I
Yes.
think you're just saying all that, but
I am not. See, it's not even on the script here. I went off script. Yeah. So,
checks in the mail, by
yeah,
the way.
right. So let's just get into it. So before you got licensed, what were you doing?
Before I got licensed, I've been a working musician for a long time. And in 2020, when the dark ages happened and my schedule got completely erased, I started thinking about what would I like to do, and kind of at that point started giving some really thought to something different.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was playing in three bands, and all my eggs were essentially, even though different bands, were in the same basket.
Right, right. And what bands were those?
Two of them were Guns N' Roses tribute bands, one based out of Portland since 2005, one out of Dallas, Texas since 2016. So it's you kind of book first come, first serve, but kept me busy.
Right.
Even got some work in 2020 when everything shut down on the West Coast. I was able to play in the Midwest with the other band. The third band was a Bon Jovi tribute. So basically,
Cool.
I've been pretending to be somebody else for an awfully long time.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, you do a very good job at it. I've
Oh,
seen you live.
thank you.
It's a lot of fun. So when did you get licensed?
I got licensed, it was early 2022. So it's been, at this point, about close to a year and a half, coming up on a year and a half, I
Right.
guess. Um, Debbie said, "You need to come work with me." I already kind of knew the work. She'd been doing it for 10 years almost.
Right.
So, having watched her and armchair quarterbacked a lot of her transactions, now I know what she's doing, and everything has a little bit of a different perspective. And we're doing all the work together. So
Right.
I feel like I've been immersed in all of the vernacular for years,
Mm-hmm.
listening to everything. And now I'm actually part of it.
Right. And what a challenging time to get into the business, COVID market. I mean, it's been a wild few years for sure. So how are you liking it?
Oh, I love it.
Do you?
I love it. I know I've heard that about it being challenging, and I've seen that with Debbie. I have nothing to compare it to myself, but I understand the market. I see what's going on, and if you don't have to risk getting into a 7 to 8% interest rate on your mortgage, and you're sitting on something that's 2 or 3, why on earth would you jump out of that and into the fray? You're just going to wait.
Yeah.
So there's fewer people buying. There's less inventory on the market. Prices are just sitting where they are. They're high. So challenging, sure.
Yeah.
But it's the work is the same.
Right. How has this year been for you guys in terms of sales?
Well, I don't know if the numbers are quite as high. We've had some deals that didn't gross quite as much, but we've had a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that are buying in the circle, I mean, there's obviously people still out there that need it. And we were at one point busier than Debbie had ever been. And we do all of our transactions together. So whether it's my sphere of influence or hers, we treat them all like, they're both of our
Sure.
clients.
Yeah. So speaking of Sphere, what are you using to touch your Sphere, like in terms of CRM or mailers, or what do you guys do?
A little of everything. Got into one CRM right away because I knew I needed to have a database to kind of control what my clients were doing. And Debbie was ready for something different. She'd been using an Excel spreadsheet for a long time, which,
Right.
I mean, if you make the system work, it works.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I kind of like a technological approach a little more than she does. So I got into one CRM, Exact Contact, and then almost immediately was introduced to one called Sphere,
Mm-hmm.
which she and I have been using together, and it tracks everything with a really modern approach. You know, your database is your lifeblood, it's
Right.
your lifeline. If you don't have contact with people, you have no clients. You have no clients, you have no transactions, and therefore no money. So,
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I really like Sphere. I think I like it because it's a realtor team leader that has put the thing together, and they're constantly updating. This is a huge plug for
And local.
Sphere. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
local, which is cool too.
And you can email them or get a hold of them and say, hey, this happen? Could we do this? And they have a team of engineers that will work on that stuff. Yeah, it's been we use that. And do you tie your transactions into it as well? Because I know it syncs with SkySlope.
Haven't stepped into that yet. It's really trying to get all the data entered into the right fields. My being new, I didn't want to incorporate new technology with a completely new concept for me doing things through SkySlope. I didn't want to rely on another program and worry about making mistakes in the program, where if I just focused on doing SkySlope, getting that process nailed in, then it'd be easier to not make mistakes
Right.
with it incorporated in Sphere.
Yeah. And so you guys came over to Realty, or Debbie came over first, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, so how's your time at Realty One Group been?
Oh, it's awesome.
Well,
It's awesome. And we had a separate meeting last night, and we actually started talking about what makes it so good. And it's the accessibility of things, just like you mentioned with Sphere being local. You can call them and text them. The family environment is really. I feel like I walk in and we've all got the same problems to deal with, and everybody's helping everybody else. If you have a question, I can ask anybody in the office. You know, you and Christy have been there for phone calls, which, I think at some other brokerages, and you try to get a hold of your principal broker, they're not going to be around, or they'll just deflect and you're off to somebody else.
Right.
And it really does seem, like you said, I was your favorite, or, one of your favorites. It's like, it's a more brotherly family type thing, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. It makes it easier to get your problem solved.
Right. Yeah. And we really believe in that. And I think it just keeps getting better and better as we grow. And in like the happy hour thing last night was great. I mean, I think we get so much out of those conversations, and it's good for agents to hear the potholes and work through everybody's issues together.
And it's not structured. Last night was
Yeah.
completely, what's on your mind? Let's just
Right.
talk about it. I mean, we started somewhere else and touched on some educational things, and then it was like, the floor's open.
Right.
That was great.
Yeah, it was very good. So what advice would you give to somebody coming right out of school and getting their license to get started?
If you're in the right environment, it's definitely less stressful. You need a mentor, and I had one in-house with Eileen, which was great. She was very helpful, and I chose, even though Debbie and I are together all the time, and she's there for me to ask questions of, it's nice to have an outside source, and then you've got basically a second opinion or a third opinion,
Right.
because I've got my own anyways.
Right.
I'll give it to you whether you ask for it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The mentoring program is extremely important, but some people are going to lean on it more than I did with Eileen, because with Debbie and I sitting across the desk from each other, we were solving a lot of problems and I didn't have to go to a mentor. And I thought, wow, if I didn't have Debbie right here, this would be, I would need to be into the office a lot more, because the questions are all day long.
Right. Right.
It is a constant learning environment. You can go to school like I did to get your license and get ready to take the test anyways, but nothing compares to actually having a transaction in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
To
then
work
we
through
got new forms, and then so you're trying to get familiar
Just
with
constant,
that. And
yeah. So did you do online or did you go through web?
I went through web.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, it was great. I had gotten away from any outside work whatsoever, just so I could focus on getting ready for the real estate test, and passed both of them. I wouldn't say with flying colors. One of them I did really well on, and the other one I squeaked by. But I mean, it's really, once you're in, you're in. There's going to be a lot to learn the rest of your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the passing him on the first time is not easy. We see a lot of people have to come back and at least hit one of them.
It's easy if you know the questions or if you know the answers
Yeah,
to the questions.
right.
There were
Same.
some of them are like, I know this, and this, like, I'm not sure if I know this one or not, but that's the answer that sounds right, and I bet I missed some of those.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, people ask me, is the test hard? And I said, no, it's not. It's not hard. It's not like you're breaking concrete or something like that, and you
Right.
can't stop. It's get up, go get a drink of water, whatever. Just relax. Just relax and take the test.
Right.
And if you've been doing the work of studying and going to classes and asking questions and all of that, if you're involved, you'll know the answers.
Right. Yeah, and take the time. I feel like some people just go so fast, and then, I mean, we've had a couple agents have to take it 3 or 4 times, and
Right.
and then they just keep getting more stress and more stress each time. you
Some
know?
of that
Yeah.
is just people who get freaked out by taking tests. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they didn't know the answers like I did. They might have second guessed themselves and walked out of the right answer. So
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the music because that fascinates me. I think
Sure.
it's so cool. Something I could never do ever, stand on stage and sing or play or, I mean, I try.
I think a lot of that has actually prepared me to be in front of people.
Oh, sure.
Their clients. I've after doing it professionally for 18 years, I've been in front of some crowds that some people would think they're really intimidated by, and it comes down to preparation.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you're doing up there, and I've been in different bands, and a lot of it is the environment that you're in. If you're playing with me, it was five guys in the band. If the other 4 guys, if you know that they're going to do their job, then all you have to do is yours.
Mm-hmm.
And you get up there and you do what you've prepared for, everything works out great. You're relaxed. If you've got 1 or 2 guys in the back that you're uncertain of, then you start second guessing yourself. It's the same in an office environment. If you think you're getting bad advice, then you question what you're doing out there, and then your confidence goes down. Your clients are going to see that.
Right.
So I did lots and lots of shows, and that doesn't mean that everybody's perfect on stage. Every once in a while, somebody will play a wrong note,
Mm-hmm.
sing the second verse first.
Right.
That would be me.
Yeah,
by the way,
right. Yeah,
I've
that's your
done
job.
it before. You
Yeah.
forget the lyrics to one of the most popular songs because you get distracted by something's going on. It ends up being kind of funny. It's it's correctable. It's laughable.
Mm-hmm.
In real estate, if you're working with somebody and you don't know the answer, you just don't pretend to know the answer.
Right.
Somebody else that you know will be able to help you find the answer, and it's usually not that time sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have at least 24 hours to figure it out.
Sure. Yeah, and if you don't know, it's best to not wing it.
Yeah.
In this business.
Yeah, be upfront with what you know, and be upfront even more so with the things that you're not sure of.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably the best piece of advice I would have is just relax and be upfront with the things that you're not quite sure of.
Yeah. How much time do you spend prospecting or, do you time block a certain period of time every day to reach out to people or?
These are some of the skills that I've had to kind of get more used to because I didn't come from that background.
Right.
Time blocking I'm just fascinated with, and I try to. Debbie doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So when the two of us are working closely together and your partner doesn't do a certain thing, it's harder for you to do that thing. So I'm more of a morning person. She's more of a night owl.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough, being in a band and used to being up until 3 or 4 in the morning.
Right.
I prefer getting up early and getting on things. I mean, if I go way back, my dad was military. I come from a very structured background and upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I dropped out of college to go play music in Los Angeles, so I ran off to do that, and I ended up, because I'm so responsible, needing to find a real job. Found a job in the blue collar professions. I was working for the power company so for 10 years. So I became very, very structured with the way that I would do things at work, very efficient. You never go anywhere with empty hands, so you don't have to make unnecessary trips. So it's about efficiency. I get up early in the morning. I try to do the things that I time block before Debbie comes in and starts to do her working, and then we start to work on a schedule together. She tends to be better with contracts and organization than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than fight that and insist, no, I'm going to do this one, I just let her handle some of that. So a lot of, back to your question of how am I handling my prospecting and whatnot, I'm getting better at it. I'm handling most of the marketing pieces. Core Fact has been really good for getting those postcards out, and the
Yeah.
Elite program that you'd mentioned last night. I got started with that back in August and put it off. I was already signed up for it, but I couldn't decide on my farm.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
it was a price point in determining who the buyer was.
Mhm.
Am I looking for that $400,000 to $500,000 buyer? Are they the ones that are buying right now, or is it the $600,000 to $800,000? You know, you're thinking a little. Maybe if I have fewer contracts open at a time, but they pay higher, it's a better use of my time. I just stuck with my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I
perfect.
walk my neighborhood every day with my dog.
Mhm.
You might see my videos that I post. We love our dog, you know,
Yes.
and he's getting old, taking care of the old man.
Well, I know I was going to ask you about the wheelchair
Yeah.
legs.
It's kind of funny. As he's starting to lose a little bit of the ability to use the legs in the back and he's dragging his feet somewhat, I thought he needs a wheelchair. And one day he had a really bad walk and he wasn't going to make it home, and Debbie had to come pick us up. So I got really hard on looking at the who am I going to get a wheelchair from? And one of my Facebook friends stepped up and had one and said I could borrow it. So I've got it now, and I tried to get the dog in it, and it's like a light went off, and you could see, this is the funny part, you could see as if it was your parent. You said, today's the day you're going to the home.
Right.
And they go, you're not putting me in a home.
I feel great. I remember everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He protested, and we ended up going out on a walk anyways, and it was the best walk I've had with him in months.
Wow.
He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm sure that's not the case. He just had a good day.
You never know.
Yeah, but it's coming. At
Yeah.
some point, you can't get around the
Yeah.
inevitable.
Right. Acupuncture. I tell you.
It's coming. It's
You
coming.
got to do it.
Because you're not the only person that's recommended it. It's just a matter of scheduling it and going
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So, what is the best tip or advice you've received in your real estate career so far?
I think it was probably when I was in school, at web school, to be honest. What we talked about earlier, it's with what you know and what you don't know. I mean, that'll just help you to relax as an agent.
Right.
I mean, most of the work, it's fun. Looking for houses is fun. Picturing yourself into a new environment and how do you make it your own and envision, this, maybe it's a really ugly house that you go into and it's in disrepair, but if you can envision it being something else, it becomes kind of fun, that creative process. The stuff that tends to not be as much fun is what happens behind closed doors, the legal documents and all of that, which should not be the buyer's burden or the seller's burden.
Right.
They should just understand what they're getting into, be able to sign and trust the person that they're working with, and enjoy the process. I mean, I like going out and doing all that stuff. They should enjoy it too. They're the ones who are going to live there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think being honest,
Yeah.
about what you know and what you don't know is probably the best piece of advice.
Exactly. Just do the right thing. Always.
Always.
I mean, because we do, you come up against some gray areas a lot of the time, and it's best not to live in that gray area.
Right.
Yeah.
Learn from everything that you do. If another agent happens to be doing something you don't like, then don't do that yourself.
Right.
It's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I see that a lot on the other side of, there's some agents out there that just are really rough. Like they'll take advantage of new agents. I don't think they put their clients always in ahead of them. I mean, I think they think more of themselves than
Win at all costs.
exactly. Yeah,
Which
and be the whatever. Yeah, we run.
Yeah,
into that.
I mean, having gone through that at least once, you look at what the other agent's doing and thinking, if I was them representing their client, what would I do?
Right.
So you kind of understand where they're coming from, but there's almost always a better way, a more diplomatic way to go about doing these things and doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of, it's a moral thing. It's undefinable exactly, but
Mm-hmm.
you know when you're doing the right thing,
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think we should end on that.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, sir.
you bet.
I love
Thanks
it.
for having
All
me. It was
right.
a good time.
You got to play something. Come on now.
I'm not sure what to play. Keep in mind, in the band,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play much.
I thought you did. You didn't do anything like in Bon Jovi? Or
Oh,
anything?
in Bon Jovi, I played some things.